Kadosh, good evening. We are continuing now. This is going to be Sif Yod Daled in Simantaf Mem Daled in the Yalkut Yosef. We were speaking about again when Erev Pesach falls out on Shabbat. And the halacha states as follows: Yizayen me'od b'seudato. A person has to be very, very careful in his seuda. Shelo yitpazru pirurei alechem lechol, right? That it shouldn't scatter around the bread in all the different places. Immediately after you seuda, you're going to put all the kelim of chametz in a certain place. You have to throw out you have to make sure you're going to shake off the tablecloth inside of the garbage bin. And put the mapa, right, which is the tablecloth with the chametz. Now, what happens now if you have full pieces of bread? You have to cut it up until each one is less than a kazait, and then afterwards you throw it out in the garbage, or you throw it into the toilet. So okay, or in the garbage or in the toilet, but just make sure that there are less pieces, less than a kazait. Yeah, he says you're allowed to broom with a chametz broom. Obviously, you're brooming the floor to get out of all the chametz. Wash your hands properly. You should wash your mouth out properly. To make sure you have nothing left in your mouth, nothing whatsoever. You should try to use a toothpick or dental floss in order to get rid of it, all the chametz in between your teeth. But be very careful in order not to cause, right, bleeding, the gum bleeding. Okay? And shinaim totavot, how do you call this in English? The dentures, thank you. Right, you're going to clean them very properly, and you're going to rinse them in hot water of kli sheni. It's already enough. You don't have to do a gala. Yeah, somebody once told me, Rabbi, what do I do with the thing? Well, I said, no, you have to put your mouth into the boiling hot water. Right? You have to do a gala. And after the Seudah, you're going to do Bitul Hametz. So if you remember, we already mentioned that you do on the Thursday night, you do B'dikat Chametz Thursday night and Bitul. Friday morning, you do Bi'ur Chametz, which means you're going to burn the Chametz, but no Bitul. Comes Shabbat morning, and this is what's different than normal years. In Shabbat morning, after you Seudah, now you do Bitul. Okay, so very interesting. No, the bracha is always the same. No, on Friday morning, you don't do any bracha. You don't do nothing. You did it on Thursday night. No, between Thursday night and Friday morning, usually, meaning I'm saying if it was like a normal year, yes, there's a difference, right? Because one of them, it says whether we saw it or we didn't see it. Another one is only that which we didn't see, right? Because obviously, if you're still keeping it, that means that you saw it and you want it there. You're not going to be vatel chametz, you're going to burn the next morning. Okay? So he says, and what do you say? You say, whether I saw it or I didn't see it. Whether I burnt it or I didn't burn it. Right? So basically any type of chametz or leaven that I have in my possession, whether I saw it or I didn't see it, whether I burnt it or I didn't burn it, should be batel, should be annulled, and it should be like afar haaretz. Okay? Fine. B'Shabbat zo yecholim le'echol matzah regila belel Shabbat. So basically on Friday night, we do have a way to get out of the problem. On Friday night, you could eat matzah regila, regular matzah. Meaning mamash matzah, regular matzah. Doesn't need, yeah, for Pesach, yeah. The one that you bought. Yeah, the one that you bought for Pesach. Yeah, 100%. Okay? Uviyom Shabbat, but now what about on the day of Shabbat? Because remember, the concept of not eating matzah, some people are a minhag of not doing it from Rosh Chodesh. But mitzad halacha, it's only a sur on the same day. So the night before, which is Friday night, you're allowed to eat regular matzah. So you're allowed to eat regular matzah on Friday night. Yeah, you say Hamotzi on Friday night. So then that's going to be a whole question. But obviously, if there's not going to be any bread, so that will become your Hamotzi. Okay? Uviyom Shabbat, and on the day of Shabbat, le'echol rak matzah shira. You could have whether it's going to be matzah shira or matzah metugenet or mvushelet, or matzah which was basically was going to be roasted or cooked or fried or cooked. That's better. Okay? Seudat Shelishit. Yeah, and on Seudat Shelishit, it's better to have it fried or cooked. If you can't eat matzah shira, so do it before the 10th hour. And if you did it afterwards, right, he says you should only eat less than a kabetzah, which is going to be around 50 grams of matzah. Because even though Chachamim say you're not allowed to eat matzah on Erev Pesach, in order that it should be recognizable that you're eating it on the night of Pesach for Pesach. However, though, he says the Yisur is only on the mitzvah on Erev Pesach, which is in the morning of Erev Pesach, but not the night before. So, and during the day of Pesach, you're allowed to eat matzah shida, right? Because you're allowed to eat on the night of Pesach matzah shida because, right, you're not Yotzei Chovah with that on the night of Pesach. Because it says lechem oni. This is not lechem oni. This is not a poor man's bread. So therefore, you're allowed to eat from it on the 14th as well. And now we're going to explain little by little. So everyone understood. So basically, one more time. Another way of doing everything is that on Friday night, you use regular matzah. Regular matzah, not egg matzah, not cooked, not fried, not nothing. Regular matzah. Doesn't matter whether it's going to be shmura matzah, not so, but it's regular matzah. That regular matzah that you could be Yotzei Chovah on the night of Pesach, there's no problem because only Isur starts in the morning, not in the nighttime. So you can do it on Friday night, eat from the regular matzah. Now during the day, when you cannot eat the regular matzah, there you could do it whether it's going to be with egg matzah, or you could do it with fried, or with cooked, right? Now, again, if you're going to do it, right, and you want to have, that's what he said, that you should do it early enough, you should do it before the Shah Sirit, which means that you should do Seudat Shelishit before the Shah Sirit, right, in order to actually eat the proper amount and do everything properly. But if not, so then you would do it, you would have less than a kabetza. Okay? Okay. Tet Zayin. Mutar le'echol matzah mevushelet be'erev Pesach. You're allowed to eat cooked matzah on Erev Pesach. What? Cooked. You cooked it. Yeah, you cooked it. Instead of frying it, instead of baking it, you cooked it. Okay? So he says you're allowed to eat cooked matzah on Erev Pesach because since you're not Yotzei Chovah on Achila matzah on Erev Pesach, so therefore, because it doesn't have the tam of matzah, yeah, therefore, there was no isur of eating it on Erev Pesach, and it's like matzah shida. And some people argue and they say, no, since that it was once upon a time baked, even though now you're going to come and you're going to cook it, you don't take away the isur of the achila on Erev Pesach. Technically, you could be lenient, and even according to the ones which are stringent, as long as it was cooked on Erev Pesach, meaning before Erev Pesach, there's no isur whatsoever to eat it on Erev Pesach, and the same halacha would apply to fried matzah. Okay, fine. Now, ma'afeh, different types of, whether we're talking about bakery or pastries. So it says that they do in different types of hotels or in public places with the Hechsher HaRabbanut HaRashit, especially with the Miyuchad, the Shabbat HaGadol HaRev Pesach of the Shabbat, which are made kemin pachzaniot, which basically it says it's made with 16 liters of water, 17 liters of eggs, 7 liters of oil, 6.4 kilos of kemach matzah, and 2.4 kilos of kemach tapuchei adama, which is basically of potato starch. Yeah, so in proportion, there's only 19% of kemach matzah. There's nothing else other than this. This is the only thing that you have. You're allowed to eat an Erev Pesach, and you can even make a Hamotzi, and Beracha Acharona is Birkat Hamazon, when you are going to be kovea seuda on these things. Okay? On these types of cookies. Yeah, that's what he's saying over here. No, you would have to eat no normal amount in order to make which one? Kabetza, in order to make the netilat yadayim, obviously with the bracha, kazait for the Birkat Hamazon. It has 19% of kemach matzah. Yeah. Okay. Fine. So in order that we don't have a problem of leaving chametz in our houses on Shabbat, and we have the problems of the crumbs that are going to be left over. So he says that especially when there's going to be little tiny children, and you don't want to put away also chametz pots or things like that from Seudat Shabbat, because you cannot clean them on Shabbat, right? Because if not, you're doing achana lechol to the weekday. Meaning, if you're going to come and you're going to use the Kosher Pesach dishes, so then what happens is not Kosher Pesach, Chametz dishes, you're not allowed to wash those dishes. Because on Friday night, you're only allowed to wash because you're going to use them again. But here, you're not going to use them again. And if you're going to wash them now, why are you washing them? Because it's Chametz, but that's achana, that's preparing. So he says, what, you're going to leave it there until Motzei Yom Tov Pesach? Therefore, get rid of all the chametz on Erev Shabbat, except for, right? That's what it says here. Nothing. Put all the different types of everything away. Only in Kosher Pesach pots and dishes and plates. Everything Kosher Pesach. And you're going to be doing the Seudat Shabbat b'matzah mevushelet betoch marak shel basar or shel of. with matzah, which is basically cooked in a marak of basar or off. Yeah, that means you're going to take a soup, whether it's of a soup of meat or thing.
Talking about the what's it called?
There was a minhag actually to do this on the last day of Pesach. I still remember that my grandparents, Aleim Shalom, used to do it, and my aunt still does it in Gibraltar. That on the last day of Pesach, they used to come and take the matzah, all the matzah, and put it in a soup. And they used to make a soup, and then everyone used to eat matzah soup. It was a soup with matzah. It was basically matzah in a soup. Yeah.
Here they're not talking about what what's the name of the soup?
Matzah ball soup. Well, here it says it's marak shel basar or off. Matzah ball. Oh, matzah ball could be chicken soup. It could be. It could be. So he says, but there we're not talking about the matzah balls itself for sure, not a mutzi. Here we're talking about mamash the matzah. The matzah is cooked in that soup. Okay, you're cooking the matzah in the soup. By the way, somebody once told me that they wanted to bring a proof from there that certain places in Morocco they were makpidim on gebracht matzah shriya. Why? Because that minhag even the Ashkenazim have it. Because the Ashkenazim, even if they were makpidim on matzah shriya, which means when you're going to put together the matzah with water, right? Even if they were makpidim throughout Pesach, the last day of Pesach, they were always lenient. The last day. Yeah, that was last day. Yeah, the last day. So some people wanted to say, so therefore, Ki'ilu, that was also the minhag of Morocco, and that's why they used to have this minhag of thing. I think it was just not to waste so much matzah. You had so much leftover matzah, throw everything in a soup, and then come in the... Yeah, 100%. Okay. So he says, how do you do it? After you cooked the food, right, the soup, you take it off the fire. And when it's still yet soledable, you put matzah inside of the soup. That way it gets the taste. And then you could do the mitzvah of Shalosh Seudos with this matzah. But don't take it out until it gets cold. Then you could take it out completely. So imagine you're taking out the full matzah from the soup. Because you want to actually make a bracha on it when it's lechem shalem, lechem mishneh. Because it still has surat apat. And if it still has a kezait, would apply. You could roast it, not roast it, you could fry it. Yeah, you could use regular matzah on Friday night, and only on doing this for the Seudat Shelishit or for the Seudah of the morning. So this is another way of getting out of the problem, right? This is very, it's almost like what you were trying to say. Very, very similar. Okay, next. No. You did this soup on Friday. Friday, you come and you make a chicken soup. Yeah. Now what you do is that don't make a chicken soup in a very like a narrow pot. Make it in a very wide pot. When it finishes cooking, right, you turn it off, right, and what you do, uncover it, and you put a few pieces of matzah inside, and then you cover it and you let it to become cold. When it becomes cold, then you open it up and you try to take it out to make sure that it doesn't break, and then you leave it to dry. When it dries, it already has a taste of the soup. Since it has a taste of the soup, it's still hamotzi. It's still hamotzi in the fact that it still has surat apat, which means that it still has the surah, the form of bread, but right, it's not the isur of using regular matzah on the day of Erev Pesach, because once it has a taste of the soup, it doesn't taste like matzah anymore. So therefore, you can't be Yitzchak on the night of Pesach with that. So by doing this way, you've gotten out of that problem as well. So you're using regular matzah for hamotzi. You're able to do hamotzi, but it's not a sur to have it because you're not going to be Yitzchak on the night of Pesach with it. And by doing that, you don't have any chametz whatsoever, and you have hamotzi according to all opinions. It's a beautiful, no? It's a very nice way of doing it in a way that, yeah. And again, this is only for Shabbat morning and Seudat Shelishit, because for Friday night you could use regular matzah anyway. This is only for Shabbat morning and Seudat Shelishit. Okay. Next, you should try to do this Erev Shabbat. However, though, if you forgot to do this on Erev Shabbat, Mikaradin, it's permitted to do this, right, even on Shabbat itself, because there's no cooking after baking, which means once something has been baked, for example, let's say bread or the matzah, there's no cooking after baking. So I could put it now inside of this pot of the soup, and even though it's going to be cooking on Shabbat, but there's no cooking after baking. Since there's no cooking after baking, there's no problem. But it cannot be on the gas. It cannot be on the actual fire. Okay, but then it looks like you're cooking. So it can be on the actual gas. Okay? Again, lechatchila try to do a bit of Shabbat, but even if you forgot, you can still do it on Shabbat itself. Okay, next halacha. There is a machloket on it, yeah, but that's their shita. But there's no problem. Okay? According to the one that we just did, so then he should do the bitul of the chametz a second time around, besides the one on the bedikat chametz, during Ushab Yuron, Erev Shabbat, right? And if you didn't do it on Erev Shabbat, so then you would do it on Shabbat itself. And even on Shabbat, you would say that on the third time, that it should also be ownerless. Okay? So, because again, since you're not going to have any chametz whatsoever, so then you could do it on Friday morning. For us, we're still going to be eating chametz, whether, if you remember, we spoke about it, you could even technically, Meikara didn't even eat chametz on Friday afternoon. You understand? But other people say, no, better not Friday afternoon, only on Friday night and Shabbat morning. But whichever way you're going to do it, you have that way of doing it. Okay? Fine. One way that we spoke about this morning when we were learning these halachot in the morning, right? We were also learning these halachot. So one way that we spoke about is that maybe right after the next minyan, we would go downstairs, right, by Kefever, we would do kiddush and have Hamotzi and pita. And that's your first meal. You say ujai with pita and a little bit of salad or whatever it is. You make Birkat Hamazon. You go walking home. By the time you walk home, and the fact that it was a shinui makom and you had your shinui and you did everything, now when you get home, you could have your third meal for you, right, with your family. And it's still early in the morning and you're able to do that. Then we had the idea that if you're already doing that for the nets, maybe for the regular minyan, we would obviously have to start early. So we would probably start, let's say, at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then by doing it at 8 o'clock in the morning, after shacharit, we would stop, do the same thing, go downstairs to kiddush and hamotzi, right? You would do birkat hamazon. After birkat hamazon, you would come back upstairs to do kriyat Torah and musaf, and then they would be able to run home and try to still make that. At least they could still get again also another hamotzi, right? Because again, remember, the Yisur is eating chametz after 10:58, right? The Yisur is eating chametz after 10:58. But again, all the other food is going to be Kosher Pesach. So what you're able to do is, even if you get home, let's say at 10 o'clock or 10:15, 10:20 even, 10:30 even, you rush, you do kiddush. Well, technically everyone already did kiddush here, but in case your family didn't hear kiddush, you do again kiddush. You would do hamotzi. You would eat your kazait of bread, finish, pack up everything, throw it out, do your bitul, and you continue your meal. And there's no problem. Then you can finish your meal at 11, 12, 1, whatever time you want. So to do with the change makom, that would be a more problem. Again, technically we were doing it, but we're trying to be machmir that we want to do the Seudat Shelishit also with bread, right? Even with that, there's still some shitot, if you remember, that we are going to see that you should still do Seudat Shelishit with fruit at around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever it is. To be Yitzhak Chuvah.
Are you saying that after a certain time, Shabbat, you're not allowed
to do it for sure once here in Miami? I remember. So it was, yeah, okay, fine, perfect. So it was 2015 because I came at the end of 2013. So it was in 2015. That's when also the exact same thing occurred. Okay, so deja vu. Okay, it was a good 6 years ago. Yeah. Okay, fine. Next. Seudat Shelishit shizmana achar mincha yev shalasota bechametz. Now, the real time of Seudat Shelishit, which is going to be after mincha, right? That's the most lechat techila according to everybody. You should always say mincha first. Okay, so you can't do it with the chametz because obviously it's already the prohibited time, and you can't do it with regular matzah, but you're not allowed to eat matzah. Okay, the fichach, therefore, you should do Seudat Shelishit with matzah shida, right? With basically with egg matzah. You so call them shasidit and eat it before the 10th hour, right? Which is basically the shalosh shaot kodem seter kochavim mitshvat zmaniyot. Okay, and that means you should try to eat it before. So here, for example, I don't know, today it's around 3:56 or whatever it is, right? Right, in order to eat it before that's talking about mincha ketana. Technically, it's half an hour before that, so it'll be like 3:15 or whatever it is. So in order you could eat matzah properly. So make mizonot, and then afterwards make beracha acharona. But you're not going to make a birkat hamazon, but it's better to do with matzah mevushelet unugenet, as we already mentioned, with a regular matzah that was basically fried or cooked, because then you're not going to say chovah in the nighttime, and you still say hamotzi because it has surat apat, and then you make birkat hamazon. And if somebody does not have it, so then you should do Seudat Shelishit with meat or fish or at least fruits. So no, so the beginning of the halacha is that if you cannot do anything to do with Seudat Shelishit, have egg matzah, but you don't make hamotzi. It's mezonot egg matzah. Yeah, you could do it. You could do it on Shabbat. Try to do it before 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Try to do it. He says, no, the truth is then it would be around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The reason why is because remember, we're changing the time on March 14th, 13th in the night, or whatever it is. So because of that, Pesach is already in the new time. So everything changes in the times. Okay, so that's... the morning option is better than this option. Well, if you do the morning option, then you're doing Seudat Shelishit with bread as well. So that is better. And that, if you remember, it's actually a Mishnah Berurah brings us down, this option of splitting up the Seudah into 2 different Seudot, and he brings it in the name of the Gaon. And he says that's the best, that's one of the best ways to do it. So by doing it that way, you split up the meal to 2 meals. Okay, and you have bread by both meals, and you're having real bread. Right? So there's no, because some people, they don't want to eat matzah at all. You understand? I know a lot of people, they had, even though it was halacha only on Erev Pesach, a lot of people from Rosh Chodesh of Nisan, they didn't want to touch. They didn't want to touch matzah. What? Some people even 30 days. They don't want to touch matzah. Why? Because they want to leave it for Pesach. So now here you're doing a egg matzah, or you're doing a regular matzah, but on Friday night, they don't want to do that. So you could have bread. 100%, there's no problem having regular bread. Okay, there's no problem. You have regular bread. Okay, fine. Next halacha says, Yesh lagdim seudah zo, right? Lifnei sof sha'at shit me'ayom. You should try to do the seudah before the 9th hour into the day, right? Again, that you could eat well in the nighttime. And if it did, that Seudat Shelishit was afterwards, so you could still do it afterwards. But as long as you eat less than a kabetz of bread, right? Or here, whatever it is, right? You can make mezonot on a. Okay, that means basically, again, you're just having mezonot or whatever. You should actually have a hot food for Seudat Shelishit, just like every other Shabbat, and not to have something cold. Here it says it's like an oneg Shabbat. Minhag Yisrael Kedoshim, that you should have something, like hot for Seudat Shelishit, even though the minhag is usually not to. But okay, fine. We're going to stop with one last halacha, which is Kaf Dalet. Kvar nitbaed, it was already explained that according to us, it's Sfaradim, that we always go after Maran Shulchan Aruch. It's mutar on Shabbat to broom the floor, to sweep the floor with a mitateh, with a broom, in order to clean out everything that has on Chametz. That is only on Ritzpah that it has, right? Ritzpah, meaning that it's not on a dirt floor, but rather on a, right, that you've got like a, how do you call it, tile floor. Okay? You're allowed to make it even with one of those old brooms that it looks like like the palm trees, right? You could be mekel, but if it's going to be dirt floor, you cannot be mekel. And according to the Ramah, you should be machmir, not even to do it, even if it does have tiles. They goy, but if you have a goy, you could be mekel. Whether it's going to be a house, whether it's minutzaf or minutzaf. Some people say that even for Ashkenazim, you're allowed to be mekel. This will have a nafkamina. For example, let's say you ate outside in your backyard, and it's dirt floor. So now here you would have a problem taking a broom and brooming the on Shabbat. We're done with on Shabbat. On Shabbat, the actual thing, because then you have a problem. Okay, fine. Bezat Hashem, and then we continue tomorrow. Bezat Hashem.